nest ready? Do you have your nest ready?
I think so. This one's pretty comfy.
What's that noise?
Something gonna turn off. It's Ken saying aloha.
I can.
Aloha, all you sweet souls.
I can. %. Good evening, my friends from near and far, from the frozen tundra of Chicago to the warmth of the polar ice caps. No. Could be. They say it could be warmer up at the North Pole than it is in Chicago today. That'd be a switch.
That would be quite a surprise.
It's really a cold spell moving down through. I think Denver was something like 2 or 3 degrees. And we only got up to 60 today. Well, my friends, welcome to the Star Tetrahedron meditation. The Christ matrix, the Christ field, what the Christ field represents when we have fully assembled what it is to be within the divine masculine, which in its true estate is the focusing of attention and intention. So it's just like when you go to the movie, they turn the bright projectoron, which is light, and that light is then held steady, unwavering. And so the light of the mind, which is then masculine, is then simply focused intention, attention. The divine feminine is love. When we have learned how to love ourselves profoundly and unconditionally, which is one of the things we'll talk about tonight, as full love is established unconditionally within, then we automatically love unconditionally everything within the world around us, no longer judging, criticizing, disliking. We can discern that this person is acting this way, or this person is doing something that may cause themselves harm or another, but at the same time, it's not a judgment, it's just a discernment. And so when we move to a place of unconditional love, we simply discern what's going on. We don't judge it or criticize it, because everything that is happening is simply individual souls who are working out their individual karma, what they have come to work upon. And they simply meet individuals and situations in the world that mirror the frequency of vibration that they're emanating from them. And so there are no victims in the world. There are simply actors and actresses, players within this divine play. The thing that keeps us still trapped within the play and within lack of love is simply emotion. And as we're moving forth now into 2022, into this new paradigm, we can discern, we can observe out there that chaos is ever more at hand. We see the things happening in Russia, the Ukraine. We see things happening as far as the financial worlds. We see great political turmoil in the United States. And so we're discerning that there's great upheaval, chaos even. But it's simply the breaking down of the old paradigm. It needs to be restructured. If you can imagine that, unfortunately, we might say before World War II, Europe was often steeped in poverty. There was the haves and the totally have-nots. And poverty, disease, dysfunctionality was rampant. But then the World War came along, the Second World War, and yes, it destroyed much of Europe, the cities, great loss of population. The souls that were in those physical bodies, they simply came back and now are present within today's world. So they're simply recycling themselves. But as we look at Europe today, we see that it's been completely rebuilt. And there's beauty, and there's art, and there's culture, and there's freedom in Europe. And this was, again, what was not apparent before the War of 46. So these things are, in one way, tragic, but in the other way, there's simply the breaking down of old structures that need to be rebuilt according to new paradigms, new ways of living in harmony and grace. And so we are at one of the most major restructurings that humanity has ever been through on the planet. And it is the breaking down completely of the old paradigm of masculine manipulation, control, the awakening of the divine feminine, of creativity, of imagination, of feeling. But that door has just opened. It opened, as we know, in December 21st of 2021. And now we are, again, completely through and moving dynamically into this new Aquarian age of the feminine, where the living waters are being poured out upon the planet. And the living waters are washing away that which is not based upon love and goodness and joy and feminine truth and wisdom. And so we see much chaos happening. At the same time, whatever keeps us trapped in the old paradigm is simply emotion. All emotion comes from programs. These programs are given to us from the time of conception to about the age of 7. We as souls, completely divine, filled with purity and light and grace and unconditional love, We agreed to come into the planetary matrix, to the three-dimensional world. And as we then go into the bodies that mother and father have prepared, whatever is within the DNA structure of not only our mother and our father, but the generations prior to that, that DNA is then what our DNA is built from. And so we're carrying then unconsciously the programs from those past generations. And as we can see, as we look at the world, the past 7 generations have been really a lot of chaos, a lot of upheaval on the planet. So there's a lot of this chaos within our DNA. The beauty of it is, of course, as we move to the working with the star tetrahedron and the Christ field, the Christ matrix, we're opening the sacred doorway within the heart back into the void, where spirit in its absolute purity, absolute living water purity exists. And as we then, with our breath and the in breath with the star tetrahedron, as we summon the breath of spirit out, it is then the purity of life in its fullness. And as we simply watch and feel it flowing through the body in this golden kind of waves of living light and living energy through the body, it touches the emotion in the body and it immediately begins to reformat it back into harmony and grace. And so this is one of the major ways that we can now cleanse and purify the emotional body. And as we're doing that, what it is actually also doing is going in and it's restructuring the DNA. So of course, we know the new science of epigenetics that Dr. Bruce Lipton has done profound work with. He really found that through restructuring consciousness, that we can restructure the DNA because we're creating a new environment. And the body and the cells, it simply adapts to a new environment. That's the way life on the planet has evolved from the very beginning of one-celled animals. When the outer environment changed, then there was an adaptation to survive, and new DNA sequences automatically were formed that allowed the evolution of all life on the planet. And so that was simply a process that was always done by adapting to the environment. But you see, we're at a place now where we know that through our consciousness, because consciousness reformats DNA, that if we, with the star tetrahedron work, as we are focusing the mind very clearly, holding it steady on feeling and summoning this liquid living river, we call it the eternal spring, as the eternal spring of spirit is arising forth. It has a golden matrix, a golden frequency to it. This is what we call the Christ wave, the Christ field. And because it is a waveform of purity in the perfect balance of masculine power and divine feminine, it then automatically moves in and through the DNA within the body and begins to restructure the DNA and begins to release the emotion. Now, when we look at DNA and the spiral that DNA is, it's actually the spiral of the star tetrahedron. So if I have this spinning star, but then I raise it up as it then spins up, it's then creating this helix matrix, which is simply the DNA structure. So our DNA evolved, you see, originally from the star tetrahedron, the Christ matrix. It was the original pattern of DNA that is in perfection, you see, that underlies and still is within the deepest parts of our DNA structure. You know, science has said that probably 85% of our DNA is junk DNA. Well, it's not junk DNA, it's perfect DNA. It is the star tetrahedron in the perfect sequencing of when we were forced emanating from out of source long ago. And through the programs and through the things that we've received from family, from the environment, from history, the DNA has been, out of balance. And so that's the emotion you see that was then caught within the body. The emotion then creating the fear, the worry, the frustration. It can then build to anger. It can become sadness. It can become depression. So you see, all these things we think are happening to us, but it's simply emotion that is rising within. And so we don't want to dislike the emotion. The emotion isn't bad. There's nothing wrong with it. The emotion is simply a signpost from spirit. It's a gift from spirit that says there is something within inside of you at a deep programmed level that was denied the feeling of unconditional love. It could be from mother and father and culture. It could be from the DNA sequencing of the whole genetic line that you have passed down through. If we want to go in and often in therapy with the mind, we want to examine the emotion. When did it happen? Who did it? What should I do about it? Which puts it in a box. Doesn't really heal it nor change it. It simply puts it in a box, and the mind says, well, I've looked at that, and sets it aside. And then we, with the mind, once again go into our spirituality, but the emotional body being out of balance doesn't really allow then the deepest sequencing of the golden liquid light into the cells and the DNA within the body. And so it's something that we know rather than what we embody and live. And so as the emotion you see rises up within you, if you're willing to stand with it, not to emote it, not to get lost within it, but to know that you are this divine and sacred being that even allowed the emotion to come forth so that you could heal it, which is then healing and rippling down through the generations before you. And so we're changing the past as well as changing the now. And so when the emotion comes up, if you stand in the moment clear and grounded and feel it, feel the fear, feel the worry, feel the frustration, but then begin to dive within it. And as you're diving within, realize that through the breath work and through the opening of the heart, through the star tetrahedron and summoning spirit, you're now allowing this liquid living light, liquid living elixir, just even flowing and moving through all the cells and the tissues of the body. And it begins to restructure the DNA. It creates a new environment around the cells and the tissues, and that's when the DNA restructures itself. And so it's through the Christ matrix, you see, which is the perfection of the DNA in its origination, that as we're bringing in this liquid living water from inside out, we're automatically coming back to wholeness and completeness. And then we see that where we are now is in a living light of a new paradigm, where we're sharing love and unconditional light with everyone that we see and feel. And we're even realizing that within everything that we observe, there's also light. Everything is made of light. Doesn't matter what it is. It's stone, if it's tree, if it's human, if it's food, it's all made of light. It's just in a vibrational tone that as we observe it with the five senses, we give it an image, we give it a picture. And that's the illusion that we interface in with the five senses. When we move to the deeper place of opening the third eye and really living from the soul and the Christ itself within, we look through all of those layers. And as we always look deeper, we only see light moving and dancing, orchestrating itself into more awakening as it plays and dances within creation. And so we see the perfection of creation rather than the imperfection of creation. So this new paradigm you see that we're moving into, it's about seeing perfection within all creation. And if we're still locked with the motion of seeing the old and feeling that which is out of balance, our vibration is simply going to attract more of that to us. And then we will be then surrounded with chaos, and then we will believe it's happening to us. Rather than knowing if I feel it, find what within me is the same emotion that I'm experiencing out there. I then open the heart. I bring the star tetrahedron into my consciousness. I feel the living golden light then flowing from inside out. We're not looking for the light. We are the light. And as we open the star door within, that's where the light emanates from. The heart is the engine of God, is the engine of source. And from inside out, we bring the light into creation. We are the sons and the daughters of light awakening in the new paradigm. So this is the beauty of where we're moving into, my friends. So one of the things that we always do is hone and refine our breath work, because it's such an important part of allowing and summoning the source from the open doorway within the heart. With the in-breath, we are literally feeling that we are summoning and calling spirit, this living water. We begin to actually feel it. And as we're in this place of deep silence and our feeling nature is quite alive, we're not thinking because we're simply observing the breath, we can actually feel this living substance arising forth, this golden elixir. And because we're focusing the mind so clearly on seeing it, it becomes more alive, more sparkling, more effervescent. And as we then simply let go with the breath, we imagine and feel it just moving, flowing on beautiful waves of living light through all the cells, the tissues of the body. We watch the water of the body, which is about 85% of what we are, water. We feel the waters becoming golden, sunlit, and alive within us, because we are seeing and feeling the perfection of what the living water within already is. It's the original DNA that was first seeded into creation. It got covered over with ignorance, but is still perfection within. And as we are summoning the breath of perfection and the living water, and then letting it simply flow in the out breath through the body. And now we're watching the bones begin to glow golden and alive. From out of the bones, new stem cells are rising forth, which then create a new structure within form, a new living temple of light. And so we realize that I am the creator being that is taking the body I am, this vehicle, and every day I'm bringing it back into light activation. I am no longer the body. I am the divine and sacred being of living light that is bringing the body into light activation. And so we acknowledge I am a creator being. I'm no longer a human being. I'm moving through the human world, but I am a creator being. And once again, what you name with the I am, this is what you are. I am a creator being. If you say I am sad, you're no longer a creator being. You're back in that old trajectory, that old paradigm. You have named what you are. You have named I am lonely, I am unhappy, I am depressed. See, that's the illusion. There's a part of you that might be sad. There's a part of you that might be lonely. The I am is a perfect Christed matrix of energy. And the emotion covered that over. And so when you feel it, that's the part of you that says, a part of me is sad, a part of me is lonely. It is still carrying these old programs, not allowing me to realize that I am the creator being of light. And I am reforming the body, reformatting it every day with a liquid living light that flows from me. So this is the breath work that we do, that we summon and call from inside out the living waters. So when we do the breath work, it's a very deep belly breathing. We're allowing the belly to go out, the diaphragm to go down. And it's this very profound in-breath, you see, where we're then we're drawing source, spirit, from out of the void into this dimension. It's a purposeful drawing of energy. We're no longer simply breathing in oxygen. That's an automatic now with us. We're using the mind, we're using the love of what we're doing, mind and love, and we're drawing this living water from inside out. We see it sparkling and effervescent, and as we let it go, we then feel it moving through the waters of the body, through the bones and the tissues, and then becoming golden and alive, and the DNA is restructuring. Creator being I am. So let's do the breath for about 5 minutes. I'll do it with eyes open, as I often do throughout the day, driving, gardening, walking, which allows me then to be quite focused and clear all the day. So let's go ahead and do the breath work. And another deep, deep breath, summoning spirit from the open doorway within the heart. Summoning the liquid living light from spirit to flow through the body. Creator being I am. And so we can ask ourselves, what is it that is summoning this living breath from inside out? Well, it's the field of divine mind, this torus field that is 12 feet all around, 12 feet above, below, 35 to 40 feet all around. It's the field of the divine mind, which is the perfect light being you already are, a pure field of consciousness. And it is enjoying exploring the three-dimensional worlds of form. This is why you, as the divine mind you are, you then put on the three-dimensionality of form in order to explore the different possibilities of this very magical world of taste, of touch, of smell, of feeling, of dolphins, of sunsets, of majestic trees and blue skies. And as you then experience all that, it then goes back into the realms of the divine mind you are. You hone it, you refine it. You then come once again and appropriate a body until you finally come to the time when you realize that I am the mind. I am the pure being of light that can then refine the body. And I can then reformat the body, the DNA, the light-bearing capacity of it, so that all that I am as divine mind can be living fully present within form. And as you do that, you actually then become the fifth, sixth dimensional being of light, now living within a three-dimensional world. Ascension is not leaving, it's not going somewhere. It's simply uniting all that you are, all those dimensions into the dimension of this now. And it's by bringing the light that you are, divine and sacred, reformatting the physical body by summoning the living light from inside out in the star tetrahedron work. And as you're doing that and you're restructuring the body, the DNA is now coming back to its original sequencing of light perfection. The great being you are now becomes fully alive within form. And we know that great beings like Yeshua, Jesus, was doing that. Beings like Buddha, like Krishna in India, all great saints and illuminated masters have learned how to activate the light body. And they live this supernatural quality within form. But it's really what you see where we're supposed to be. That's what we're moving to. The last 12,000 years have been breaking down that and then covering it over with the manipulation and control of what we've been going through. And now we reach the movement where we're now moving into new light activation. And this is the new paradigm. We're actually becoming once again embodied light within form. So this is why we do the star tetrahedron work. So the star tetrahedron, as we well know, it is formulated by the divine mind. It is focusing the light of mind, holding it with attention and intention, and then with the feeling of love. Love is simply embracing something and holding it in sacredness. And what you're loving is the feeling of this living star that you are so loving and creating by focusing and feeling the living star. It actually becomes a matrix of living light around you. And this matrix that is power and love united, the Christ star, the Christ matrix, as the upper triangulation is turning and the lower triangulation is turning in opposition, it creates a vortex, and that vortex is within the middle of the heart. It's the jewel in the lotus that opens back in the realms of void from which all creation originated. And then with the breath, as you're doing the star tetrahedron, you're observing it and watching it, moving it around you. At the same time, you are summoning and calling the living light, spirit breath. It arises forth. You then give it the attention and the intention of living, effervescent light flowing from you. It flows through the cells and the tissues. It then simply emanates out into the world and begins to change the paradigm. A new frequency of light, just like changing the paradigm by being the living light. And so this is the magic of the star tetrahedron, the Christ wave. So I'm going to take you through the full sequencing of the DNA patterning through the star tetrahedron. And as we're doing that for about 30 to 35 minutes, I'll join with you and we will create a magnificent light activation for all of us. So once again, as the star tetrahedron is turning, in the very center, the heart chakra opens, and from out of it, spirit is arising forth as the breath. And so we're breathing as we're observing the movement of the star. It's a simultaneous thing. We're observing the star, we're also breathing life from inside out. So let's go ahead and close the eyes and feel the body relaxing. And we bring our attention between the eyebrows. And as we draw a line straight back, within the center point of the mind, we ignite the light of the soul. The focusing of attention and intention within the center point of the mind brain, the seat of the soul. We focus the light to the heart chakra at the sternum and we illuminate the star tetrahedron. Upper triangulation of divine power is turning left to right clockwise. And the lower triangulation of divine feminine love, apex beneath. Simply observe the triangulations are turning. And as they turn in counter rotation, it opens a sacred doorway within the heart chakra. A door opens into the void, into the realms of spirit. And with the breath, you are summoning and calling the living light. And with the out breath, observing sparkling, effervescent liquid light through the waters of the body, the bones and the tissues. washing away all old emotion, flowing out into the world and bringing peace on earth. I am the light. I will join with you, and we'll all gather together in the sacred living light. Thank you very much. Quite a wonderful meditation for sure. It's always so exciting and so filled with light. We all gather together and bring the light in. It's really quite beautiful. So I encourage you to practice, of course, the star tetrahedron meditation, hopefully once, twice a day. The more that you can focus the mind and feel the living star, it actually creates it to be an existing light form around you. You're building another body, the light body activation. It is the star tetrahedron of light that then begins to change and restructure the physical presence so that it also moves into light activation. And then the divine mind of the great being you are, the torus field, now living fully within the form. You're now a sixth dimensional being of light living within a three-dimensional reality, which is super conscious. And this is the paradigm you see that we're moving into. So practice is one of the keys to making this all part and parcel of your daily life. If I can, of course, assist you in any way to help you refine and understand the star tetrahedron work, please let me know. Always available. I also want to thank each and every one of you for your donations. There's been some marvelous donations from you folks, and I want to thank you. It really upholds my work. I encourage you also to study the book. It's quite profound in the information that is within it. So, so profound. And as you really begin to study the book, make notes, you'll find that it really assists you greatly in the activation of the star tetrahedron. So we'll see you in next couple of weeks. Once again, if I can be of any service to you, please let me know. And blessings to all of you, my friends. Thank you very much.